Okay, as wedding filmmakers, we've all made mistakes. Now, hopefully they've been small. Realistically, they probably haven't, but we've all been there. And in this video, I want to share the 5 biggest mistakes that I've made after many, many years of capturing weddings. And a quick note that this video is sponsored by our friends at Tamron. More on that in just a bit. Now, none of these mistakes have cost me my business, but I have definitely been put in some tough situations. And number 3 on this list particularly is just so dumb as I look back on it many years later. So let's get to it. Starting with number 1, and it's here to remind you that it should be the number 1 thing that you do before almost anything else, and that is not having a contract. And now maybe for you it's not having a good contract, but all the same, unfortunately for me, it was not having a contract at all. And the thing is, this isn't a problem until it's a problem. I still have a handful of projects with outstanding balances from my early years, and while having a contract in place can help in those worst case scenarios, the best part about a contract is that it provides clarity for both you and your client. It allows us to both know what we agreed to, what I'm providing, what my terms are, and more, and it's a great place to point back to should any confusion arise. Number 2 is something I see all the time with new wedding filmmakers, and I am ashamed to admit that I too was guilty of this once, and that is showing up with a single camera body. And I'm torn on this because I know that everyone starts somewhere, but things can and will go wrong. I've had cameras go down on a wedding day, I have dropped things on a wedding day, I've had cameras freeze while recording and not save clips, and for all those reasons and more, you really need to have a backup. Now I usually shoot with 2 to 5 cameras on a day, and while I am primarily on only one camera, if something were to happen to it, I have backups with me. We all know that you don't get to redo a wedding film, and you need to come equipped accordingly. Now, one thing I've done that was definitely not a mistake is adding some Tamron lenses to my bag. That's right, this video was made possible in part by our friends at Tamron, who are making some killer lenses that not only have great image quality, but are also incredibly affordable. So if you're looking to help build out your kit, maybe upgrade your wedding films, consider some lenses from Tamron. I personally have and use the 28-75 2.8 as well as the 35-150 f2 to 2.8, and I could honestly capture an entire day on just that setup. So check out these lenses and more down at the links below. And now we get to the most embarrassing mistake I will admit to here, and it's embarrassing because it's just such an easy fix and a cheap fix, and that was showing up to weddings without enough memory cards or batteries. And I'm not talking about forgetting them at home, I mean I was basically just too cheap to really have a comfortable amount. Now, I don't think I ever lost footage because of this or missed out on moments, thankfully, but I can distinctly remember a few weddings where I was a bit more picky about what I shot, which at that stage in my career, I should have definitely been shooting more. Luckily, I realized pretty early that the stress that this was causing was not worth the $200 or whatever it would take to fix this situation. So I think that you should have enough memory to at least record 2 full weddings with breathing room on all of your cameras and be able to run all of your cameras for those 2 weddings as well, battery-wise. Basically, just don't skimp on the small stuff. My 4th mistake is definitely something that has put me in some binds over the years, and that was recording only one audio track. Now, we have a bunch of videos here on Wedding Film School about how to record audio, and you will always hear us talking about having more than one source. And that, my friends, comes from experience. If you shoot weddings as a career, you will run into problems. Maybe the feed from the DJ is bad. Maybe they changed the volume without you realizing. Maybe the lav mic has some speakers pointed towards it and the echo is just not manageable. Maybe somebody turned off the recorder that you put on them or chooses to not use the microphone at all. There are tons of situations where your audio can and will be affected, so it's always nice to hedge your bets and have some safety options in place even if you don't use them. You can check out our other videos here if you want to see our full approach to audio at weddings. Find them on the channel. And that brings us to the very last mistake that I've ever made at a wedding in my entire career. Just kidding, of course, I'm sure I've made plenty more, but this one hits home with me and is something that I still need to be careful of, and that is wasting money on crappy gear. Or really, I guess it could just be wasting money on gear in general. So when I make a purchase now, I think about the quality of the product as well as the role it plays specifically at a wedding. I know I've wasted money on the iterations of lighting setups that I've had over the years, buying something cheap and hoping it would magically be amazing, and it usually wasn't. Or the huge jib I think about that I used to bring to weddings, not the travel kind, that while it did get some cool shots, it was probably very disruptive to the day. And look, your style will change, technology will change. Upgrading and getting rid of gear is not a bad thing, but more often than not, it's worth spending a little more for the right piece of gear that will last you longer, both in quality and in your workflow, than it is to save, a couple $100 and get something that you'll have to replace because it doesn't really do the job. So while we're all creatives, ultimately we are businesses, and being smart with your money is smart for business. I hope that sharing these mistakes helps you avoid them, and I want to hear down below from you in the comments if you've made some of these exact same mistakes or maybe some different ones. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.